Welcome in Gene Wang from the Washington Post, who covers Navy football down in Washington, D.C. Gene, definitely thanks for joining to discuss this Saturday's game down in Annapolis, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt. Appreciate it.
So first up, I know we had some injuries that are going to affect the game on Saturday, particularly the quarterback position with Tago Smith going down. What is that going to do for the Navy offense this week?
They traditionally don't really change a lot regardless of who the quarterback is. Will Worth is going to be the starting quarterback for the rest of the season. He's a little bit different than Tago Smith. He's not as athletic, but he's bigger, so he can take more punishment and take more pounding, but he's not as shifty at the line of scrimmage, not as quick in and out of his cut. So it may change how much they run a little bit. Maybe a little bit bigger arm. He was actually very good throwing the ball last week. So that might be the only tweak, but there's still going to be a triple option team. They're still going to run the ball 90% of the time, do a lot of play action in a passing game. That is going to be their always has been their MO, and it will continue to be so no matter who the quarterback is.
So I know Swain Train's gone, and he's been replaced as well. What did Navy accomplish during training camp, and did they like what they saw? Obviously, it was a big win, 52-16 over Fordham on opening weekend.
Certainly. Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly, Swain was, a big part of their offense after 1,000+ rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, a perfect complement to Keenan Reynolds, the rookie quarterback. But they have a fullback, Fatai, who they're very, very, very encouraged by. Last week he had 176 rushing yards. He was a runaway freight train. He's a big guy, 230 pounds, and is kind of shifty for a guy that size. So they really want to give him the ball a bunch. I mean, they have Miles Swain, Chris Swain's younger brother, who played last week too. They're encouraged by him as well. So it's just like the quarterbacks at Navy and the spot backs, which are traditional running backs. They have these guys in high supply, high volume of these guys who 5-6 guys deep. A lot of them don't get to play as much because there's so many good guys in front of them. But the thing about Navy is, which is unique to service academies, is that they don't have athletic scholarships, so they don't have roster limits, so they can just keep JV players, as many players as they want on the roster, and just get these guys ready with as many reps during practice as they can. So they don't really miss a beat, whoever's in at those skill positions.
Now, I know Coach Neil Mazzololo flirted with heading to BYU a season ago, potentially. Yeah. Ended up staying in Navy. What was the thought process surrounding that decision to stay?
Well, if he had left the Navy, he would have had to start all over again, and who knows if he would have had a staff that he's had in place for so many years. He has half a dozen of his assistants who've been with him a dozen years or more. I mean, that's the highest in the country retention rate for assistants. And that speaks to why this program is so successful year after year. I mean, they all know the program so well. They all know what they want to get accomplished. They all know the culture of Navy football. So that continuity really helps in not just the X's and O's, but also the recruiting. So if he had left and gone to another school, who knows how many assistants would have gone with him, who we would have to hire, and they're running the triple option. That's another question. Would he have been able to run a triple option anywhere else other than Annapolis? So there were a lot of question marks. Certainly his religion, he's devout Mormon, made a huge difference in being able to speak with BYU. That's the only reason why he was considering that job in the first place, because of how much that part of his life means to him. But in the end, he and his family felt it was just best to stay at Annapolis, where he has a great thing in place already, and it's by all accounts, it's just going to continue for as long as he's there as the head coach.
I'm talking with Gene Wang of the Washington Post, previewing this Saturday's game between UConn and Navy down in Annapolis, Maryland. Now, Gene, there were some rule changes that took place, particularly blocking below the waist changes during the off season, that may affect the way teams can block during running the triple option. Was that a topic of conversation during training camp? And if so, what was talked about?
Yeah, well, certainly every year Navy coaches talk about that. I mean, it's a topic of conversation pretty much weekly when you're the opponent playing Navy. You always ask the coach about blocking schemes and how they're going to counter it and how you handle it in practices, because you can't really prepare for it because you don't play against this kind of offense every week, and you don't want to put your own players in jeopardy during practice, obviously. So it's kind of a unique situation. Yes, Navy coaches emphasize it every year in spring training and spring ball, and then also in training camp they talk about it. And this is a team that's the least penalized team in college football every single year. So you know they dot their I's and cross their T's about blocking and cut blocking, making sure you do everything legal. And by the book, last week they had 2 penalties for the entire game. You know, their goal is to have 0 penalties in every game, and they get close to that. A lot of weeks they have no penalties. So clearly they know the rules and they know, you know, they want to stay away from penalties because they're not athletic enough to play catch-up. So they want to stay ahead of the chain. And when you get penalized, that's not happening.
Now, this is year 2 with Navy, or I'm sorry, year 3 with Navy joining the AAC. Going to give opponents some more familiarity with the style of play that Navy plays. With Bob Diaco here at UConn, that's not really the case. He's played against this offense previously during his time in Notre Dame.
You're right.
What's the familiarity between the two guys? I know Coach Neil Mastalolo talked very highly of him at the coaches' call during the conference meeting this Monday.
Yeah, certainly. Kenny and Mastalolo has nothing but the highest praise for Coach Diaco. I mean, he talked about him as one of the greatest coaches in the country, someone who has dealt with the triple option and really knows how to counter it. I mean, in Coach Neil Mastalolo's words, he said, you can't fool UConn. I mean, you're not going to be able to do anything that they're not prepared for. You're not going to be able to do anything that's going to catch them off guard. So basically, it's just a question of execution. And if Navy can execute, they're going to have a chance to win. But they're preparing for a knockdown, tag-out kind of fight. I mean, they're preparing for a game that's going to be nowhere near what happened in the first week when Navy ran away against Fordham. Obviously, a different level of opponent. And when you're playing conference games, you can, sometimes you can throw all the records out of the window. It doesn't really matter because those games are so important. I do think that even though the teams in the conference are familiar more so with the triple option than maybe other schools, you're still not going to be able to prepare for it every week. I mean, if you're playing maybe the first game of the year, maybe you have a lot of camp to prepare for it, but week in, week out, you're not going to play a team like Navy's offense. You're going to play a lot more spread, maybe some more pro sets, but still very, very difficult to prepare for in only a week.
Now I want to correct myself. This is year 2 with Navy in the AAC, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. And then final question. Last year, it was a good battle up here in Storrs despite the score. It was 28-18. I thought the game was closer than the final score shows.
Sure.
What are you expecting to see on Saturday? And for some of the fans traveling down from Connecticut, what type of atmosphere should they expect?
Well, Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium is one of the great venues for college football in the country because it is a memorial. I mean, you'll see all the ships that have fought in every war for the United States all around the ring of the stadium. I mean, it's a beautiful place to watch a game, but it's also something that makes you appreciate history and what our troops do. And then at the beginning of the game, there's the march on by the Brigade of Midshipmen, something that is just another great visual. You see all the companies walk onto the field. They line up. Afterwards, they salute, they take off their hats, and they get obviously a standing ovation. And if the weather cooperates, there's a flyover right before kickoff. F-14 planes. I mean, that doesn't. I don't know if that doesn't give you a rush. I don't know what will. I mean, it's just a great atmosphere to salute our military. And I always tell people, they should at least go to one game at a service academy. And there's nothing like it with all the pomp and pageantry that surrounds the school that, like Navy or Army or Air Force, that is obviously a service academy.
And then what do you expect when we get kickoff on Saturday?
Well, it's going to be a lot of running for Navy. I mean, that's what they do. It's going to be the triple option. It's going to be try to try to establish the fullback, and all defensive coordinators will tell you, sure Coach Diaco will tell you, they want to try to take away the fullback. If they can take away the fullback, that makes them a more one-dimensional team. They're going to have to use the slot back to get to the edge, and so they're not going to be able to kind of dictate the pace. But if they do get the fullback established like Chris High was last week, then they become almost an impossible team to defend, because they also have one of the better wide receivers they've had in a long time in Javier Tillman on the outside, who is big, physical, and fast. So he can stretch defenses as much as a Navy team will do so in the passing game. But they'll pick and deep shots at him in play action. So, and he's a tough guy to cover one-on-one. So, and if Navy gets ahead when they score first, Kenya Michael's record is something like 15-5. I mean, it's really, they don't lose when they score first, because it's hard to get them off the field. They run 20-play drives, and if they're ahead, you get frustrated by the second half, the fourth quarter, especially your defense. You have tired legs, the tackling becomes less efficient, and they run the clock. So they're very frustrating team to play against. But if now Connecticut gets ahead, then it becomes a much different game.
Well, I appreciate the time, Gene. Thank you for agreeing to this interview. I'm heading down Saturday morning, so I'm going to get a chance to take in that atmosphere, and I'll definitely introduce myself when I get there.
Yeah, fantastic. Look forward to it, Matt.